Really sticks out to me about Sammy Coates is I remember watching that playoff game against the Bengals last year, and that was really the first time Sammy Coates had any real playing time. And I just remember Ben screaming and yelling at him in this game. He was coming across the field on an in cut, and he didn't make a sharp cut like you need to make. He kind of rounded it off. He rounded his route off. I don't think Ben has the trust in him. So you're right, Ben has talked up Eli Rogers, and so has Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator there in Pittsburgh. So when you've got your offensive coordinator and your quarterback behind you, you're going to get some valuable reps.
If in your dynasty league, Eli Rogers is still on the waiver wire, I don't know why you haven't picked him up yet, because the writing has been on the wall for quite a while that Eli Rogers was going to man the slot. First off, for the fact that Sammy Coates has run with the second and third stringers all preseason, should have told you something was up. And there's also been Eli Rogers blares for a couple weeks now. I went to pick up him in my main dynasty league, and he was already taken. I was very disappointed. So if he's still available in your leagues, grab him for cheap, especially if it's a PPR league, because I think Eli Rogers could be second in targets and receptions this season. Heath Miller's gone. Ladarius Green might be headed to IR, and Jesse James is very unproven. So really, after Antonio Brown, it's probably going to be Marcus Wheaton and Eli Rogers duking it out for the most targets.
Yeah, he's somebody you can pick up for free. There's no risks for it. If you're willing to sacrifice a roster spot for Eli Rogers, why wouldn't you give this guy a shot who could be the number 3 wide receiver in one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL this year?
In redraft leagues, every year, there's one receiver that has a big week 1 and gets pushed to the top of a lot of people's waiver wire priority. I think that could be Eli Rogers this year. He's definitely going undrafted, and he's in a starting lineup that's going to pass a lot. Alshon Jeffrey has said that he feels Kevin White needs to be more physical on the field. Brian, you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, Kevin White needs a lot of work. On my rankings on our website, superfantasybros.com, I had him ranked in about the mid-wide receiver 2s. I think that's about his ceiling. He was raw coming out of West Virginia. He was a late bloomer. He's got a lot of work to do. I think he's a great talent. I think he's got a lot of potential. It's tough to say how relevant he's going to be this year.
If you're in a startup draft for Dynasty, Kevin White's draft stock is almost completely upside. There is nothing solid about Kevin White's dynasty value. He was out all last season and has not done anything yet. But yet he's being drafted at 303. To me, that's way too high. Alshon Jeffrey is being drafted only a round earlier at 204.
I don't like taking rookies that early in a dynasty or in a redraft for that matter. There's just too much risk. Those have to be, home run picks. Those have to be high floor picks for me to take those picks that early. Kevin White's not a high floor pick. That being said, I really think that he can have a productive NFL career. I think he's got the athletic ability. I think he's got the hands.
I think I've talked about before that we did a Dynasty Nerds staff league. I occasionally write for Dynasty Nerds, so I was in it. I was shocked whenever Ezekiel Elliott went 111, and then I was equally shocked whenever Kevin White went like 206. To me, those picks, once again, are based on nothing. They are picks built on sand. Another big issue is that the fact that the Bears' offense, I don't think, can sustain 2 fantasy-relevant wide receivers.
Yeah, you're down on the John Fox offense. Rightfully so. If you don't look at the Denver numbers, I see where you're coming from there. My only concern to that is that I don't think that defense is... they're not going to keep them in games. That defense is not going to keep them in games. So they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw.
A lot of people think that Alshon Jeffrey and Kevin White could be similar to the Brandon Marshall-Alshon Jeffrey tandem that we had a couple years back. I don't think that's going to happen. I did some research. John Fox offenses just typically tend to be run heavy. 9 of his 14 years as a head coach, his offenses have ranked in the bottom 8 in pass attempts. The times that it was over that, he had good quarterbacks. Obviously, 3 of those years he spent with Peyton Manning, he was near the top of the league in pass attempts. You have Peyton Manning. Of course you're going to lead the league in pass attempts. If you don't, you're doing something wrong. And I think he realizes that Jay Cutler is not an elite NFL quarterback. So I think he's going to rely on the run game heavier as he has in the past. The one season that John Fox offenses produced 2 fantasy-relevant wide receivers with a quarterback not named Peyton Manning was in 2004. The wide receivers were Keyshawn Johnson, who had 70 receptions, 815 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and Steve Smith, 83 receptions, 1,166 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Those are both good seasons. Once again, that was 2004. If I'm in redraft, Alshon Jeffrey is the only receiver I have any interest in from the Chicago Bears. Brian, would you rather have Golden Tate or Kevin White?
Well, that's kind of unfair because I'm a Notre Damer. I love me some Golden Tate, but even with taking my rose-colored glasses off, I'm taking Golden Tate. He's produced. He's in a better offense. He's the number 1 wide receiver. There's no doubt that you take him before him. You take Golden Tate before Kevin White.
Definitely. Pull it up. I'm interested to see if Golden Tate's ADP is lower.
Yeah, I'm going Dynasty Nerds ADP right now. 39.
What?
39. Behind Tyler Lockett, this is their July overall ADP.
So Kevin White is 23rd and Golden Tate is 39th?
Right.
Are you kidding me? I don't think Kevin White's going to do anything this year. I think Kevin White will be a low-end wide receiver 3 at best. And yet he's worth, what, the 29th overall pick in Dynasty Draft?
23rd.
23rd! He's in the second round! Oh my God!
He's in the second round. He's at the end of the second round. That's nuts. So behind him are Randall Cobb, Jarvis Landry, Jordan Matthews.
What's the logic for making those picks? Well, he was a high wide receiver pick last year. He's big. He's fast. So I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. Rumors surfaced that teams were calling the Browns looking to get Josh Gordon in a trade. I'm not sure who is inquiring the Browns about Josh Gordon.
There's multiple teams, they said.
Was it the Browns that released this statement, though? I don't know where this comes from. And I just can't think of any teams off the top of my head that would be consistently wanting Josh Gordon on their team. The word is that he's looked very good when he's played. I guess he just got back on the practice field this week. But I think the Browns have a lot more to lose from trading him than they have to gain. I mean, right now, if you think about the Browns starting wide receivers, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty good group. Terrell Pryor has been pretty good in preseason.
That's crazy that you just used that sentence.
That statement is utterly ridiculous. I never thought I'd be able to say it. Yes, Terrell Pryor has been great in preseason.
He's made some great plays. The first play with him in RG3, that catch was ridiculous.
So you have Terrell Pryor on the outside on one side. Josh Gordon comes back week 5. You put him on the outside on the other side. And then you have Corey Coleman in the slot. That's a dynamic receiving core. That has me excited to see the Browns offense play this year. Finally, something in Cleveland worth seeing.
What's the highest rookie draft pick you would give for Terrell Pryor?
I'd probably give a second.
I probably wouldn't go that high. I'd probably give him a third.
Once again, I don't really value rookie picks like most people do. I am very low on rookie picks. So we're moving into the final segment of the show. Just coincidentally, these last 3 items that we have to talk about are all tight ends. The first one being that Tyler Eifert is going to attempt to jog this week after his offseason ankle surgery. He's not running routes. Tyler Eifert will attempt to jog this week.
It's big news, man.
This is huge news. And he's being drafted in the 7th round. If you're just starting to jog this week, I think it's completely possible that Eifert starts on the PUP, which then you lose him for the first 6 weeks. And to me, that's a lot to pay for a 7th round pick, especially at tight end, because you're probably not grabbing another guy until very late.
Yeah, this ankle injury is crazy. He suffered this in the Pro Bowl. He spent the whole offseason dealing with this. I would really be wary if I'm drafting Tyler Eifert. I wouldn't draft Tyler Eifert. If he's just starting to jog now, what does his conditioning look like?
I'm not super concerned about his conditioning, mostly because I think that Eifert can still be effective if they just get in the goal line and they'll just run him in. And what he does is catch touchdowns. I think last year he had less than 700 receiving yards. His value was in his double-digit touchdowns. And I think even if he's not in the best condition, he can still catch double-digit touchdowns. But it's going to be certainly tough to do when you're missing the first 6 weeks of the season. He's definitely going to miss week 1. if they don't put him on the PUP, I would expect him to at least miss maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks. Tyler Cross also dealing with a sprained knee, but he's expected to be ready for week 1. I guess you could draft Eifert in your redraft league and then get Croft off the waiver wire.
I was high on Croft. I picked him up in one of our dynasty leagues after I saw the injury to Eifert. But after seeing this preseason and seeing Tyler Boyd really excel at that wide receiver 2 position, I don't think they're going to ask Tyler Croft to do a lot.
That's a good point. Tyler Boyd is really doing well this preseason. I don't see anything to gain by giving the second receiver job to Brandon LaFell. Anyway, back to Tyler Eifert. Like I said, round 7 is just definitely too steep for me in a redraft league with the injury concerns. Round 10, a dynasty league, I'll still take him because I think if there was no injury concerns, you can make a case for Tyler Eifert to be one of the top 3 tight ends in dynasty.
Yeah, definitely. I would still roster him and still take him relatively high in a dynasty startup just because that he's, once he's back and healthy, I think he'll return to top form.
So next tight end, after spending a lot of time injured, Jared Cook is now in Packers camp and is apparently looking very good with Aaron Rodgers. Reports say that they're establishing a rapport. Not surprised at all. I don't think anybody really thought that the Packers would go and sign Jared Cook and then just have him be a backup to Richard Rodgers. Jared Cook by far gives them a much better receiving threat at the position. I think the Packers are starting to realize how valuable a good receiving tight end is.
I think Jared Cook is primed for a nice tight end year. They wouldn't have brought him in if they had faith in that Richard Rodgers could be their starting tight end.
If you compare their player profiles on playerprofiler.com, it's very obvious who's the better receiver. Jared Cook about max out almost every metric. 4.5 40-yard dash time, 98th percentile. Height-adjusted speed score is 96th percentile. 98th percentile burst score. And he has a 97th percentile catch radius. A lot of people have been hyping up Jared Cook for a long time. He's always been held back by these Jeff Fisher offenses. And I think with Aaron Rodgers, Jared Cook could definitely flourish. I don't see any reason why Jared Cook couldn't be the number 3 receiver this year for Green Bay. And it's a hotly debated topic. Who will be the number 3 receiver? Devontae Adams. But Jeff Janis was a possibility for a while. Then he injured his hand. Now people are saying Jared Abdebaris.
Abdebaris, is that right?
I don't know. It has too many B's. So that's how I'm going to say it. Jared Abdebaris. If you want to correct me, tweet at me at DynastyNut or email the show, jetsetdynasty@superfantasybros.com. Jared Cook could easily be the number 3 receiver for the Green Bay Packers. A very similar situation to this is what's happening in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, Safarian Jenkins was the entrenched tight end, but after a subpar offseason, Cameron Brate overtook him on the depth chart, but now he's reportedly working his way back up it. Reports have been that Safarian Jenkins and Brate are now splitting first-team reps, and I really don't think there's any question about who should be the starting tight end.
No, absolutely not. Safarian Jenkins is one of the best prospects at the tight end position to come out since Gronkowski.
His best comparable player is Tyler Eifert, so that's good.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
He's not super fast. He's pretty agile. 11.2 agility score, 87th percentile. Great catch radius, 10.26. Great college dominator rating, 29.5. That's 87th percentile. Breakout age was 18.9, 94th percentile. Safarian Jenkins definitely could be a great tight end this year. Pretty sure he's going undrafted. And reports have been that Jameis Winston loves throwing to Cameron Brate. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think Jameis Winston probably likes throwing to the tight end position. And I think the bigger, better target is clearly Safarian Jenkins. But now he seems to be putting it all together, getting his head on straight. Currently undrafted in redraft. If you were smart, you might have made a trade for him in Dynasty whenever you saw the whole spring practice charging off the field incident.
That really seemed to be what started his downward spiral, which is really ridiculous if you think about it. He's 23 years old. He had a bad practice, got frustrated, slammed his helmet, and walked out. Yeah, maybe there's some immaturity concerns there. Now that I'm looking at some blurbs here, something came out this morning, actually, where one of their coaches was praising ASJ's work ethic over the past couple of weeks, which maybe shows that, okay, he had a bad day. Now he's, ready to come back and prove that he can be one of the best players on that team.
Safarian Jenkins has to realize that he's leaps and bounds better than Cameron Brate.
I think their coaching staff has to realize
the coaching
that.
staff has to know, but I think that as a coaching staff,